Welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, where today will be part 2 of our interview with Most Worshipful Brother Antonio Graham.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our thoughts and opinions are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions via our website at theworkingtoolspodcast.com.
Today on the Working Tools Podcast, we have our usual group of 4 hosts, Very Worshipful Brother Stephen Chung from Prince Charles Lodge number 153 in Kelowna, BC, Brother Craig Graham from Kalmalka Lodge number 160 in Vernon, British Columbia, Very Worshipful Brother David Colbeth from King Solomon number 60 in Auburn, Washington, and I'm Matt Appel from Mill Creek 243, and we are in Mill Creek. We're in Montlake Terrace, Washington. And we are honored to have with us this evening Most Worshipful Brother Antonio Graham, Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Washington and Jurisdiction. Most Worshipful Sir, thank you again for tolerating us for another episode. We really appreciate your return.
Yeah, it is my honor to be here. Thank you.
So we left off at the end of the last episode. You were just about to start talking about the story of William H. Upton and his relationship, or stymied relationship, I suppose, with the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Washington. Could you elucidate further on that, please?
Yes. So, as I was saying in the first, in the last podcast, what kind of really intrigued me, it was kind of like the message of the, to unite, because for brethren, across the globe, and people that's not really aware of there is, Washington Masons and then Prince Hall, and people sometimes ask, what's the difference between the two? And my simple answer is nothing. Nothing. But that leads to people to ask other questions. Well, why is there a Prince Hall, Mason? And so, you gotta have to, go through the story, and say, hey, at some point, at one point, men of color wasn't accepted, and that's when Prince Hall came, and he made a treaty with these gentlemen. We go back as far as George Washington, and you talk about these brothers sitting at a table, and how Prince Hall got to start, and long story short, it just evolved into a worldwide organization. But for many, many years, we weren't recognized. And the beauty of Washington was, the story of William H. Upton, and with him basically, stating, he was a Grand Master. He also was an attorney, a judge, and prior to his passing, he stated that I don't want any Masonic headstone until the white and black Masons, join together, as one, and identify each other, as brothers. And the beauty of Washington was when they bridged that gap, and they said, we want to be the pioneers to do it. What a lot of brothers don't know is that Washington lost a lot of fraternal recognitions from other jurisdictions because of the fact that they decided that they wanted to join and unite, as one with Prince Hall. And so for a huge organization, like Washington and stuff, to make that leap and to do that, just that story alone was so intriguing to say, this is a special jurisdiction, and we have what's called the March of Unity, and Every year we come together and we meet in DuPont, Washington, in August, and we march down to the church and we have church service together. And after that, we break and we go down in the back and we have a picnic, and we just fellowship together as brothers, and we, everybody together like it should be. And so that was probably one of the most interesting stories, that actually just made me want to be a Washington Mason, because it's like we have a special relationship, with each other, and it is truly genuine. When we meet brothers and stuff, because it's easy to walk away, and not be a part, because we all have lives, but as you grow in masonry certainly becomes a part of your life. And me, at this point, I really couldn't see myself with masonry not being a part of my life, because of the interaction and the love and the beauty and the unity and brotherhood that we've all formed, a true bond of unity. And so that was one of the biggest things that intrigued me to even want to be a part of this jurisdiction. Not to mention that Washington and jurisdiction is very, very unique, because we have a connection, all over the world globally. We have brothers all over, and it's tiring, because you find yourself, traveling, which is not a bad thing. I'm sure my wife loves it, because she's, always traveling to different places. But you get to interact with brothers all over the world, and the bonds of unity is just, it's global, and it makes you feel proud to be, a Mason.
It's actually, that brings me up another thing I've noticed is that, so the Grand Lodge of Washington, of which David and I are members, is confined to the state of Washington, and the Grand Lodge of British Columbia and Yukon is British Columbia and Yukon. But the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Washington and jurisdiction has that and jurisdiction on there. It's a far-flung organization, as I understand. What is the end jurisdiction, that part?
Wow. So I think how we branched out like that was, through the military. I being the Navy, the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, and Washington branched out, and they started setting up lodges, wherever military installations were, and that's truly how we grew, and we actually was able to, put our place setting, in different countries, and stuff like that. So it was I think that's the unique part, of how we evolved, and for all over, because we have lodges in Germany, Korea, Japan, Okinawa, Japan, the Philippines, Guam, Korea. I may have said Korea already. The Middle East, Dubai. I'm sure there's some other ones that is broke down, into jurisdiction. Into districts.
Mm-hmm. As Grand Master, do you get to go visit all these places? Because that would be terrific.
Yes. So.
Oh wow.
So we have. So in our code says that we should visit. Grand Master should visit every lodge. That is literally impossible to do in this capacity. So we have district sessions, and so our district sessions we compile of, like, we in last month in September, we went over to District 9, which is Europe. And so we went over, and all of the lodges over there, we came together. We had a banquet. We actually opened up the lodge, and then they gave us reports, on their stewardship in their lodges and stuff. And so we have to hit every district that's overseas, but because we're so vast, and all over, we have something that's called the Feds, which is the Far East District Session. So everybody that's in the Far East, Korea, Japan, Guam, the Philippines, we all meet in a certain location. And then we have district session over there, which is interesting because I was just on a phone call with my district deputies over there, and we just set the date for our Feds that is going to be in Tokyo, Japan, here at May 25th through April 25th through May 1st. So they set up, and then we go over and we handle business, and then we get to fellowship and enjoy each other. So that's kind of how that evolved, but it surely creates a mileage plan out of this world. So, so yeah, that's how we pretty much ended up with and jurisdictions, which, like I said, it's beautiful. It is an experience that I wouldn't change for the world. It is beautiful because what it does, it extends, it truly extends the bonds of unity, across the globe. When we say Masons is a worldwide organization, it truly bridges the gap, and it puts a real meaning on what, on that aspect of what we call worldwide Masons.
And as I understand, one of your lodges is in BC, isn't it? Or is that not correct?
Yes, we have a True Resolution, which our district deputy is Right Worshipful Dudley Green. And so, yes, we absolutely have a lodge over there.
Very cool. So, yeah, and there's about how many lodges are in Washington of the Grand Lodge, Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Washington?
So we have 20. We have 20. We have about 22 lodges here in Washington, and of course, like you said, we have one in in Vancouver, Canada, and then all the rest of them are over overseas. So we have about 52 lodges.
Very cool.
That comprise of Washington and jurisdictions.
So with that idea of knowing the vastness in distance, and let alone jurisdiction, area, what prompted you? What motivated you to say, yeah, I want to be the Million Mile Club guy? and have to literally almost rule the world. I mean, it's kind of the inside joke that my friends say, well, David, and we know you all Masons rule the world, but you kind of do a little bit, like a quarter of the world. How do you, I mean, if somebody says, hey, would you ever think about going to the East and the state of Washington? It's like, man, to travel from Seattle to Spokane all the time, and from here to there, I'm not talking about going to Guam or or Korea or something. That's a big step. How do you make that? So yeah, I'm going to do
that. I think oftentimes when we in our Masonic travels, I believe that you don't select it, but it calls you, and and if it's for for nothing more but the love of the organization, it's it's addicting, and it's a level of unity that once you become a part of it, it's like you don't ever want to let it go. And and so it was never, this position was never my intent. It was absolutely never my intent. If someone would have told me 20 years ago, you're going to be the most worshipful Grand Master for the state of Washington and jurisdiction, I would have probably laughed them out of the room and tell them they needed to go and seek treatment somewhere because they were talking to the wrong person. Absolutely the wrong person. But, you know, once I got out of the seat as worshipful master, I took a year, not necessarily a year off, but I just met with my lodge, just, you know, and traveled around. But it was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting because I didn't see anything else, but so I was content. I was like, I've been the worshipful master. I'm a past master now, so I can go and support my lodge and support, you know, the district. And every now and then, you know, hop on a plane and be able to go on fellowship, and that was it. Well, after being out of the seat a year, I got appointed as the district deputy Grand Master for District Number 2. For at that time, most worshipful Grand Master Patrick Hughes, and he appointed me as district deputy. I had no idea what I was doing, but he saw something. He saw something in me that to where he felt like I had leadership potential and to bring brothers, you know, together. And yeah, you know, at the time it was like, hey, you know, we're all coming together, we're having fun, and so, you know, I was everywhere doing, you know, fellowshipping with everyone, and so it just kind of, you know, fit into what I was already doing. So, you know, the title wasn't really important to me, you know, because I was already, you know, fellowshipping and doing, you know, and going around and doing stuff with the, you know, with the brethren and stuff, which it became a great thing. That year, I became District Deputy Grand Master of the year. And so, you know, it was a great thing. And so I was district deputy for 2 years. Most worshipful Hughes did 1 year as a Grand Master, and then we had most worshipful Gregory D. Rags that took over as Grand Master, and I was appointed again. And so I was district deputy Grand Master for 2 years. So I after that I think I took about a year off or a couple of years off. And I was, like I said, I was traveling around, I was content. And then I found out district deputy Grand Master, that is the best job in Masonry. You know, you know, you don't have to report to anybody really, but the Grand Master, and no one messes with you. So it was a great job, you know, so I thought. And I was, you know, at Grand Session, and I got nominated by a past Grand Master. And I turned down my first nomination for Grand Junior Warden. And I was like, I don't want to do that. You know, that's definitely what I'm not doing that. They never have any time off. And so I declined it. And 2 years later, it came back up again. And so I was ready at that time. So I ran unopposed, and you know, I became the Grand Junior Warden. Well, as luck has it, if you want to call it luck, we were hit with COVID. And for our Masonic order, it really changed the landscape of how we did business as far as our Masonic interaction. And Zoom and all of these other platforms were really created because it's like, hey, you know, Masonry, and it really took a hit when COVID happened because we were used to fellowshipping, and not necessarily, on social media online. This organization will surely die if our brethren aren't, physically together and, interacting with each other. I mean, it works, but only to a certain point. And so we kind of got stagnated, and I was the Grand Junior Warden for 3 years, and that third year, I honestly, brother, I wanted to quit because it was like, oh my God, I don't know when, I can't see an end in sight, but we made it work, and of course, I went to be the Grand Senior Warden, then Deputy. The clouds opened up and the sun came out, and we were kind of like back on track, of what we were doing. But certainly after COVID, the road wasn't easy to get the brethren, back, and we still haven't really recovered, and probably every jurisdiction is the same way. And we haven't quite recovered from COVID, but we are, we're regaining momentum, and so I guess it became a reality, and a focus, because then, we always talk about, you got to have a 3-5-7 year plan. You gotta, build your trustful board, and you got to make sure that you know what you're doing. And I was terrified, because I was like, man, I know what I want to do. I know what I want to change, but we got all of these wise men, that's been here and has come here before me, and it's like, what can I bring to the table to make us better, to make us steadfast. And, so it was, like I said, it was something that I never envisioned myself, doing. I always, looked at my father, he was the true Grand Master, and he was way more qualified, to be here, except me. But, I guess, there's a saying that God doesn't put anything on you that you can't handle. And so, I'm up for the task, and I am here, serving on, my jurisdiction and, brothers, across the globe, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed, we are, servants for, the whole. And hopefully someone sees something, in me and decide one day, hey, this is what I want to do. Because if we don't, Masonry will surely die on the vine. It's truly the essence of each one teach one. If we don't, we surely are going to die.
Can you talk about your message, Grandmaster, what is kind of your theme? And then if you were to have a crystal ball and to be able to look back 20 years from now, what would you like to kind of most be remembered doing, or whatever, or what would your message and your legacy like to be?
So I call this the my first year, the Unity Tour, and what my focus is my motto is erasing the invisible lines. We as Master Masons, we tend to put up borders that aren't there. And so my message is unity is the key. And so if I would have to say, looking back on 20 years, what I would have liked to believe that I would have done was to increase our membership and fulfill the bonds of unity amongst all brethren. Because I think that's the most important part. Without the brothers, nothing else really matters. The jewels, the purple and gold, the glam, the glitter, and all of that. Nothing really matters unless you have a bond of unity, with our brother.
Amen. That's a wonderful message.
You're here. It's you said something earlier that you were junior grand warden for 3 years. Is it common for the Grand Master well, I assume the Grand Master was Grand Master for 3 years. Is it relatively common in your jurisdiction for the Grand Masters to serve multiple years?
So in the jurisdiction of Washington, we serve 2 years, a maximum of 2 years. However, every year we have an election. And so we would hope that we would run unopposed for those 2 years. But we know the politics of Masonry gets in the way sometimes. But the Grandmaster and those officers, we normally serve 2 years. And I think it's a great thing, because I think the message and changing the Trussell board, it almost is a curse, for us, because if you got one Grandmaster that comes in and his executive staff, they come in and then they're focused on one thing, and then you have another Grandmaster come in and he wants to do something totally different. It gets nothing done. It stagnates the process. And so I believe it's a great thing. I also believe that, you have Grandmasters in the southern jurisdictions that, man, they've been there for 20 and 30 years. The Grandmaster from Oklahoma and a couple of other Grandmasters, they don't move. But also, I believe that's a curse, because it's stagnant. Because if you have a vision, or someone is a focus, and you got brothers that's coming behind them has got these new ideas, and if you got an old guy that's like, this is how we're going to do it, and we're not going to change anything, I think it stagnates a jurisdiction, and the forward momentum or progress is severely, impacted.
Yeah, I know I've contemplated it here in Washington, and from my experience up in BC and Yukon, there's basically the Grandmaster only serves 1 year, and I've thought that same thing, that we move at the speed of Masonry, as I say, and it's really hard to turn that ship in just a year if you have a plan that you're trying to execute. I've thought the same thing.
Well, before we let you go too, Grandmaster, I know while you're saying it's a 2 years, we kind of have a little bit of a tradition in the show that we interview a Grandmaster coming in kind of to his term, and then at the end of his term. And so we would kind of maybe appreciate a midterm re-interview, if you will. And then of course, at the end of your term, if you'd be open to that, we'd love to have you come back on and talk about that. And maybe we can start a new tradition of it, because we have the Grandmaster Washington and then Grandmaster of BC Yukon that we've been doing that cycle with, but we'd love to start including your office as well.
Absolutely. I would be honored to do that. I actually told me and I actually watched the podcast on Most Worshipful Nelson, and we kind of communicate and stuff with, he's a great guy. But I also told my 50th Grandmaster that I just took over from, I was on the podcast, and he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, if you're lucky, I might tell him about you.
Yes, we would love that. We would love that.
Absolutely. So yes, we appear to have reached the wrapping up time. So, Most Worshipful Sir, thank you very much for coming on the show again. We appreciate it. Is there any, as Steve likes to say, is there any last plug you'd like to give, or website, or anything that you'd like to direct people to if they're interested in learning more about Prince Hall Masonry or the Grand Lodge of Washington and Jurisdiction?
So my father is the publisher of the Washington Monitor, and what I'll do is I'll send you a link. Every quarter we we put out a Washington monitor. Actually, it is on our Grand Lodge website. So if you go to Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Washington.org, and you go into some of the publication, and you'll see Washington Monitor. We have it's set up like a bookshelf, and they're set up on the bookshelf, and you can actually flip through, and you can see all of our publications of around the jurisdiction what we do. And so it is absolutely the I say the information highway to Washington jurisdiction around the globe, and what we're doing. So it is actually a good place to start, to do it. So if anything, I would say go and check it out, and I welcome all of you, brethren, to our our grand session. And we always have a good time, and unity being the chief of our institution. So I look forward to fellowshipping with the brothers, many more times.
Thank you, sir. We look forward to it too. The Unity March is it's always the first week of August, I believe, the first weekend of August.
That's correct.
First Sunday of August, and I've like I said, I've only gotten to go once because it always seems to conflict with something. But the one time I got to go, it was moving. Honestly, it was great to see the brothers together and just having a good old time together. It was great.
Yeah, that it is a great thing. Most Worshipful Nelson and I, we started a new tradition. We have a banner, and on the back of the banner we signed it, the Worshipful Masters on the Most Worshipful Grand Masters and stuff, and it's hands coming together, and so it's a great banner and stuff. So going forward, so kind of a little bit of a new tradition, and wanting to let the brothers know that we continue to love on each other and respect each other, as men and Masons.
Hear, hear. Well, with that, now I've gone all echoey. With that, thank you very much, Most Worshipful Sir, for being on the show. We really appreciate you being here for a couple episodes, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we looking forward to talking to you all next time on the Working Tools Podcast. Goodbye.